Once upon a time, in a city where wealth divided people like an invisible wall, there lived a young woman named Chioma. She was 25 years old, beautiful beyond measure, with eyes that held quiet strength and a smile that could brighten even the darkest room. But in the grand mansion where she worked as a housemaid, beauty meant nothing without money, and Chioma had none. The mansion belonged to the Adiemi family, one of the richest families in Lagos. Chief Adiemi owned hotels, oil companies, and half the real estate in Victoria Island. His son Tunde was 32, handsome, arrogant, and engaged to Evie, the daughter of another wealthy family. Together they represented everything Chioma would never be: privileged, educated, and born into luxury. To Tunde, Chioma was invisible, just another maid who cleaned his rooms, served his meals, and disappeared when not needed. He never looked her in the eyes. He never asked her name. To him, she was simply the girl. But what Tunde did not know, what nobody in that mansion knew, was that Chioma carried knowledge more valuable than all their wealth combined. Chioma woke every morning at 5. It had a single bed, a wooden chair, and a cracked mirror. No air conditioning, no luxury, just 4 walls and a ceiling fan that barely worked. By 5:30, she was already cleaning the massive living room, polishing the marble floors, dusting the crystal chandeliers, arranging the imported furniture that cost more than her entire year's salary. Madam Kemi, the head housekeeper, would shout, "Chioma, the master's breakfast must be ready by 7. "Yes, ma," Chioma would reply softly, hurrying to the kitchen. Tunde came down at 7:15 every morning, dressed in expensive suits, smelling of designer cologne. He would sit at the dining table, scrolling through his phone while Chioma served him toast, eggs, fresh juice, and coffee. He never said thank you, not once. One morning, as Chioma poured his coffee, her hand trembled slightly. A single drop spilled onto the white tablecloth. Tunde looked up sharply. "Are you blind?" he snapped. "Do you know how much this tablecloth costs?" "I am sorry, sir," Chioma whispered, quickly wiping it. "Sorry does not fix incompetence," Tunde muttered, returning to his phone. Ivy, his fiancée, laughed from across the table. She was sitting there in a silk robe, her long weave perfectly styled even in the morning. "Darling, you cannot expect village girls to understand quality. She probably thinks this cloth came from Balogun Market." They both laughed. Chioma said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was safer than defense. Later that day, while cleaning Tunde's room, Chioma found a framed photo on his dresser. It showed him and Evie at their engagement party, both smiling, surrounded by champagne, flowers, and admiring guests. Ivy's dress had cost millions. Her diamond ring sparkled even in the photograph. Chioma stared at it for a moment, then quietly continued cleaning. That evening, alone in her small room, Chioma called her grandmother back in the village. "Chioma, my dear," her grandmother's warm voice crackled through the phone. "How is Lagos treating you?" "It is fine, Mama," Chioma lied. "You sound sad." Chioma's eyes filled with tears. "Mama, they treat me like I am nothing, like I do not even exist." Her grandmother was silent for a moment. Then she spoke gently. "My child, listen to me carefully. A person's worth is not determined by what others see, but by what they carry inside. You carry something those people will never have, wisdom passed down through generations. One day they will need you, and on that day you will remember who you truly are. Chioma wiped her tears. Yes, Mama. What Chioma's grandmother did not need to say was this. Chioma had grown up watching her deliver babies in their village. For 40 years, her grandmother had been the only midwife for miles. She had taught Chioma everything: how to read a pregnancy, how to position a baby, how to handle emergencies when no doctor was available. Chioma had assisted in over 50 deliveries by the time she was 18, but in Lagos, none of that mattered. Here she was just a maid. 3 months later, the mansion was buzzing with excitement. Ivy was pregnant. The news spread through the house like wildfire. Chief Ademi threw a lavish party to celebrate. Guests arrived in expensive cars wearing designer clothes, carrying champagne and congratulations. Chioma served drinks in silence, moving like a shadow through the crowd. 6 months along, Evie announced proudly, her hand resting on her barely visible belly, and the doctors say it is a boy, an heir for the Adiemi Empire. Everyone cheered. Tunde stood beside her, beaming with pride. My son will have everything, the best schools, the best life. He will never lack anything. Chief Adiemi raised his glass. To my grandson, the future of this family. Chioma watched from the kitchen doorway. She felt a strange unease settle in her chest, though she could not explain why. Over the following weeks, Ivy's pregnancy became the center of the household. The family hired the most expensive obstetrician in Lagos. Ivy had a personal doctor on call 24/7. Prenatal vitamins were imported from Europe. Everything was planned, controlled, perfect. But Chioma noticed something the doctors did not. She noticed how Ivy complained constantly about back pain, not normal pregnancy back pain, but sharp, specific pain low on her right side. She noticed how Ivy's feet swelled more than they should. She noticed the way Evie sometimes winced when the baby moved. One afternoon, while cleaning Evie's room, Chioma overheard her on the phone with her doctor. I know, Evie said impatiently, but the pain is getting worse. Yes, I am taking the medication. Fine, I will come in next week. She hung up, muttering, these doctors do not know anything. Chioma wanted to say something. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. When the baby sits too low and the pain is sharp on one side, you must watch carefully. But Chioma kept silent. Who would listen to a maid? The baby was due in 2 weeks. Everything was prepared. The private hospital had reserved their VIP suite. The doctor was on standby. Gifts had already started arriving: gold bracelets, designer baby clothes, luxury strollers. Then one night, everything went wrong. It was 11 in the evening. Chioma was in her room about to sleep when she heard Evie scream, Tunde, Tunde, something is wrong. Chioma jumped up and ran toward the main house. She found Evie in the living room, gripping the couch, her face twisted in pain. Water had pooled beneath her on the marble floor. The baby is coming, Evie gasped. It is too early. Call the doctor. Tunde was already on his phone, pacing frantically. Dr. Okonkwo, we need you now. What do you mean you are in Abuja? No, we cannot wait until morning. He called another number. Dr. Williams, you are at a conference in South Africa. Panic filled the room. Chief Adeyemi rushed in. What is happening? The baby is coming early, Tunde shouted, and both doctors are out of town. Then call an ambulance. Tunde dialed emergency services. His face went pale. There is a storm. They are saying roads are flooded. It could take hours. Ivy screamed again, louder this time. I cannot wait hours. The baby is coming now. Chioma stood in the doorway, her heart pounding. Tunde was shouting into his phone. Madam Kemi was praying loudly. Chief Adeyemi was yelling at security to find a doctor, any doctor. Nobody was thinking clearly, except Chioma. She stepped forward. Sir, not now, Tunde shouted without even looking at her. Ivy screamed again, tears streaming down her face. It hurts. Something is wrong. I can feel it. Chioma's grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. When they are screaming in panic, you must be calm. When they cannot think, you must think for them. Chioma raised her voice. Sir, let me help. This time, Tunde turned to her, his face twisted in anger and fear. Help? You are a maid. What can you possibly do? I can deliver the baby, Chioma said firmly. The room went silent. Everyone stared at her. Tunde laughed, a harsh, desperate laugh. You deliver a baby? Are you insane? My grandmother was a midwife for 40 years, Chioma said calmly. I assisted her in over 50 deliveries. I know what I am doing. She is lying. Ivy gasped between contractions. She just wants attention. But Chief Adeyemi, watching his daughter-in-law writhing in pain, made a decision. We have no choice. Let her try. Father, Tunde shouted, you cannot be serious. Do you have a better option? Chief Adeyemi roared. The ambulance will not arrive in time. Our doctors are gone. If we do nothing, we could lose both of them. Tunde looked at Ivy, who was now sobbing uncontrollably. He looked at Chioma. His pride wrestled with his fear. Finally, he stepped aside. Fine. But if anything happens to them, nothing will happen, Chioma said quietly. Trust me. Chioma moved quickly. Madam Kemi, I need clean towels, hot water, and scissors. Boil the scissors for 5 minutes. Chief, please clear this couch and lay plastic sheets over it. Tundi help Evie lie down. For the first time since Chioma had arrived at that mansion, people listened to her. She washed her hands thoroughly, then knelt beside Evie. Listen to me carefully, Chioma said, looking directly into Evie's terrified eyes. I need you to breathe slowly, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Can you do that? Ivy nodded, gasping. Good. Now I am going to check the baby's position. Chioma gently examined her. Her heart sank. The baby was sideways, a transverse position, dangerous. If not corrected, both mother and child could die. But Chioma had seen her grandmother handle this before. The baby is lying sideways, Chioma said calmly. I need to turn him. Turn him, Tuna's voice cracked. How? Traditional technique. It is going to hurt, Ivy, but I need you to stay calm. Ivy was crying. I cannot do this. Yes, you can, Chioma said firmly. You are stronger than you think. She placed her hands on Evie's belly, feeling for the baby's head, his back, his feet. Then, slowly, applying gentle but firm pressure in specific points, she began to guide the baby into position. Evie screamed. I know it hurts, Chioma said softly, but breathe with me. In and out, in and out. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, Chioma felt it. The baby shifted, His head moved down. "He is in position," Chioma whispered. "Now we push." What followed was the longest hour of everyone's lives. Chioma guided Evie through every contraction, every push, every moment of pain. She never panicked. She never doubted. She moved with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. Tunde stood frozen, watching this maid, this woman he had dismissed as worthless, save his family. At 1:47 in the morning, a baby's cry filled the mansion. Chioma held the tiny crying infant, wrapping him in a clean towel. "It is a boy," she said softly, tears in her own eyes. "A healthy boy." Ivy sobbed with relief. Chief Adeyemi fell to his knees, thanking God. And Tunde stared at Chioma as if seeing her for the very first time. "How did you," he whispered, "how did you know how to do that?" Chioma handed the baby to Evie gently. "My grandmother taught me that every life is precious. Rich or poor, it does not matter. Life is life." The next morning, the storm had passed. The ambulance finally arrived, but there was no emergency anymore. Evie and the baby were stable, resting peacefully. The doctors came and examined them both. Whoever delivered this baby, Dr. Okonkwo said in amazement, knew exactly what they were doing. The baby was in transverse position. Without intervention, this could have been fatal. Everyone looked at Chioma, who stood quietly in the corner. "It was her," Tunde said. "Our maid." Dr. Okonkwo approached Chioma. "Where did you learn this?" "My grandmother," Chioma said simply. "She was a traditional birth attendant in our village." "Traditional?" The doctor smiled. "What you did was textbook obstetrics. Do you realize that?" Chioma shook her head. "The technique you used to turn the baby, external cephalic version, that is taught in medical schools. Your grandmother was practicing medicine without even knowing the scientific names." In the days that followed, everything changed. Ivy, holding her son, called Chioma to her room. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I treated you terribly. I looked down on you, and you saved my life." Chioma smiled gently. "You do not owe me anything. I am just glad you are both safe." But Ivy insisted. "No, I do owe you, and I am going to make it right." Chief Adeyemi called a family meeting. "Chioma," he said, "you will no longer work as a maid in this house." Chioma's heart sank. Was she being fired? "Instead," he continued, "I am paying for you to attend nursing school, full scholarship, and when you graduate, you will work in our family's new maternal health clinic." Chioma's eyes filled with tears. Tunde stepped forward. "I was wrong about you," he said. "I thought education and money made someone valuable. But you taught me that wisdom does not come from classrooms. It comes from experience, humility, and a good heart." He extended his hand. "Thank you for saving my family." For the first time, Chioma shook the hand of the man who had once refused to see her. 2 years later, Chioma graduated top of her nursing class. Chief Adeyemi opened the Chioma Maternal Health Center in her honor, a clinic specifically designed to combine modern medicine with traditional birthing knowledge. Chioma became the head nurse. She trained other young women from villages, teaching them what her grandmother had taught her. And the little boy she delivered that stormy night, he grew up knowing that the woman who brought him into the world had once been dismissed as just a maid. Tunde and Evie named him Shidi, which means God exists. Because on the night when everything went wrong and all their money, connections, and pride could not save them, God sent them someone they had overlooked, someone invisible, someone invaluable. As Chioma stood in the clinic one day, holding a newborn baby she had just delivered, she remembered her grandmother's words, "Your worth is not determined by what others see, but by what you carry inside." And she smiled, knowing she had carried her grandmother's wisdom across generations, proving that the greatest treasures are often found in the most unexpected places.